Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped, and welcome to this first glance look at the all-new Kia EV9. So first off, I just want to talk about my journey through the world of Kia so far as an automotive YouTuber. I think for me, the first car from Kia I drove was the Stinger GT, and that impressed me a great deal. And I had a Stinger on the channel not that many months ago when we said goodbye to it, a fond farewell. What an amazing, amazing car. And then I think when I really got to grips with Kia as a brand and the vehicles they make and the direction that they're going was when I had the Sorento plug-in hybrid as a long-termer last year. It was a car that impressed me a great deal. I don't think it's until you live with a car and get your head around the infotainment system, you get your head around what it's like as a proposition to live with. And that Sorento really did tick a lot of boxes. There's bits of technology in that Sorento you don't see in other mainstream manufacturers, and that really does surprise me. There's a couple of those bits in the EV9 we'll talk about a little bit later. And then the EV6, I think for me, pound for pound, is one of the best all-electric vehicles on the market, whether it's the GT line vehicle or the completely bonkers EV6 GT that I drove last year, which has Porsche Taycan performance for early 60s money. It's a remarkable, remarkable car. But this EV9, this is Kia's first 3-row of seats, large SUV. Styling point of view, well, it's certainly bold styling. The styling ethos from Kia is called Opposites United, and it starts off at the front of the car with this digital tiger face. And there's a lot of kind of Kia DNA in there, but lots of new stuff as well. It really is a very bold statement. For me, now, if you're of a certain age, you're going to get this. This car looks very Judge Dredd to me. It's got this real purpose about it. And it's safe to say that that bold design language and styling continues at the rear of the vehicle. I really like it. I think it's modern and edgy and makes a big statement. This particular car is in what's called Pacific Blue. This colour is actually available in the matte finish that we've got here, but also in a gloss finish. It's not often you review a car that you can literally lie down in. This thing is cavernous. With the back 2 rows of seats folded down, it's 828 litres of boot space. And if you've got the 6-seat variant, so all 3 rows of seats up, you've still got 333 litres of boot space. That's nuts. And there's a boot in the front as well. So yes, this frunk, or fruit, I guess depending on which side of the pond you live in, has, now it depends, this car is going to come in rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. So if you have the rear-wheel drive version, slightly bigger frunk, 90 litres, and if you opt for the all-wheel drive, it's 52. But you've got plenty of stuff, some rather nice charge cables to fit in there. That's probably most of the things that you'll store in that, but pretty good storage up front. There are 3 different wheel sizes to choose from, 19, 20 or 21 inches. All of them come with noise-reducing tyres and aerodynamic blades to improve efficiency and reduce drag. Now here's a novel feature, reclining seats with a footrest. So when you're, plugged into your charger and you want a bit of a nap, we always talk about only doing, 2 hours and then having a rest and charging your car up. Well, you can have a proper full-on sleep in one of these. This is lovely. Now, it's a 7-seater, right? So I've got to test the room in the back. So you've got all the gadgets and gizmos. You've got power in the back, you've got place for your drinks. And if I just drop this seat, these seats slide up and down. So actually, I've got plenty of legroom. This seat's sat as far back as it can go. And then you just pull this red cord here to let yourself out. And because it's only 6 seats, there's a gap in the middle between these two where I can put my legs if I needed a bit more space. Do you know what? It's good in here. I can see myself doing a longer journey if I drop this back and just had that there. I've got lots of leg room. Obviously, I'd have to have a short person next to me, but yeah, very good. Now, the seats in front, they do a very, very, very cool trick indeed. So, there's quite a lot to talk about with these seats. First up, you can slide them up and down. Now I've got this seat all the way back for me, but you can also recline. So if you wanted to chill out on a journey, you can. Now, the really cool thing, and sadly it's not spec'd in this pre-production EV9, but if you go for the 6-seat option, which gives you this gap between the two middle seats, there is a 7-seat option, but this would then be a bench seat. If you do that, they do a swivel seat option. So these seats will swivel through 180 degrees, and actually a table comes out of this center console. So it only happens when you're stationary or when you're plugged into a charger. But if you wanted to kind of jump in the back and have a bit of a picnic, you can swivel your seats and chill out. And I just think that's really, really cool. It starts to, you know, if you think back many years, there were concept cars that had seats turning round and turning this into a living space. It happens in this car. But I really like these seats, and they take a bit of getting used to this one just to get a nice comfy position, but loads of space, loads of comfort, heated and cooled seats in the back. I like it a lot. Got all your climate control buttons at the top. You've got 2 big panoramic glass roofs to give you lots of light. It's just a really cool space. Now then, the EV9 is an EV after all, so let's talk charging. The charge port is just here. It supports AC and DC charging, no great surprises there, so you'll be able to plug it into your wall box at home. In terms of DC charging, it's got a CCS connector. It will charge it up to 235 kilowatts, so to put that into layman's terms, 15 minutes of charge will give you about 150 miles. It's an 800 volt system. But just like the EV6, this has some really cool things. You might be wondering why on earth I've got an e-bike parked next to the car. And that is because the EV9 supports something called vehicle to load. In the boot is actually a 3-pin power socket. And here is my e-bike charger. So all I need to do is plug one end, the 3-pin power socket, into the socket in the boot, and the other end into my e-bike. So you rock up, you know, you go out mountain biking and you forget to charge your bike at home. Not a problem, you just get there and off she starts to charge. Now, there are 2 other things, and this will be coming into the European market gradually over the next few years. It also does not just vehicle to load, but you could, in theory, charge another vehicle off this. But where it really gets exciting is vehicle to home and vehicle to grid. So if you've got solar panels at home, you may well have something like a Tesla Powerwall to capture the energy from the solar panels and store it when you need it. The theory is with vehicle to home is that you could have your car plugged into your charger, and then you could take power from the grid when the tariff is at its lowest, and then store it in your car, and then take it from your car back into your home when the tariff is at its highest. And then vehicle to grid, in theory, you could then take that energy and put it back into the grid as well. But a really interesting thing, I've been talking about this kind of stuff in my technology day job for years now, but to see it actually in place. But the ability to plug in an e-bike or some kind of electrical tool, a vacuum cleaner when you're hoovering your car, something along those lines, that is very cool. And the little charge port's just shut itself. So what's the EV9 like from the driver's seat? Well, instant impressions are, there's a huge amount of space. I'm actually going to have to bring this seat forward because there's just so much room, and that obviously gives more leg room for the rear seat passenger. The steering wheel has a really nice feel to it, but let's just talk about the displays, because there's a combination of lots of touchscreen but also some real buttons. So there are 2 12.3-inch screens, one where the main infotainment system goes, and then one where the, if you like, the driver's binnacle would be. And then there's a smaller separate screen here with all of your climate control buttons on it. So although it's all touchscreen, so it's nice and simple, it's very easy to get to. It's a little bit obscured by the steering wheel there. You do have to kind of move your head either side. But you've also got some physical buttons for climate control, temperature up and down for both front seat passengers. And then on the dash along here, you've got some buttons that actually only appear when you turn the ignition on in the car. They're backlit. And then although they're part of the dash, and when you run your finger over them, you can't feel them, they're actually little haptics. So when you click on them, it's got this really nice feedback. And then you've got all of the infotainment system. Now in this first glance review in a studio, I'm not really going to get to grips with the ins and outs of the infotainment system, but it's got some nice features that I really like, and a couple of things I've not seen before. First things for, I mentioned right at the beginning, one of the things I loved about the Sorento is it's got a blind spot camera. So whenever you indicate left or right, either the left or the right display on the main driver's binnacle turns to a blind spot camera, and you can see down the side of the car. A brilliant feature that I've only ever seen in Kia and Hyundais because they share the same kind of infotainment and back-end systems. It supports Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, obviously. The infotainment system, the sat-nav in particular, has lots of sort of help when you're guiding a route and you haven't got enough range. It will estimate how much charge you need and suggest charge stations and so on. Again, I'd like to put that to the test to see how good it is, to see if it comes anywhere close to the market leader, which in my book is currently Tesla and has been so for a long time. Stereo system, a 14 speaker Meridian surround sound system. What I love about Kias is there's very little options when you buy one of these. There's kind of like, you get the base model or the GT line, which are the two models that we're first going to see, and they come with lots and lots of kit as standard. It's also got car wash mode. Now, I know there'll be many of you, especially the car detailing fraternity, that say you should never ever put your car anywhere near a car wash. But let's face it, this kind of car, I would imagine, certainly in the winter, it's quite a tall, big vehicle. Lots of people, just to keep it clean, are going to stick it through a car wash. So when you put it in car wash mode, it does things like it makes sure all the windows are up, it makes sure that the door handles are in, it pulls the door mirrors in, just little things like that. I think that's quite neat, never seen that before. This car's actually spec'd with the door cameras. We're not going to get those in the UK to start with anyway, and I actually think that's a good thing. I've only ever driven one car with these mirror cameras and I really didn't get on with it at all. The main problem is, although you've got the screen there, you can't change the perspective of that view as you move your head. I would much rather have a traditional mirror, even though I am sure having a camera on the outside of the car reduces the drag coefficient and increases range by not a massive amount, but enough to be a benefit. Now, another very cool feature in this EV9 that I'm going to try and demonstrate is the rear view mirror. But imagine you've got a whole bunch of luggage in the back and you can't see out the rear window. This becomes completely useless. Not in this car, because if you just flick the switch as if you were dimming the mirror turns into a rear view camera, and that is now a screen showing you the view out the back. The only place I've ever seen that is on a Maserati MC20 Cello, but hopefully I'm going to try and demonstrate. Bear with me a moment. Hello! Back in the room. How cool's that? Finally, I want to talk to you about the Kia Connect store. So this is where you can have an app on your phone, which is basically a marketplace of new features and functionality that you can buy for your Kia after you've taken delivery of the car. And those features will then be delivered over the air to the car. This isn't you having to pay for using climate control or anything. This is new stuff. So to give you an idea of that, the all-wheel drive version of the EV9 has two motors, front and rear. And in the base model, the front motor delivers 250 Newton meters of torque. In the Kia Connect store, there's a boost mode that you can buy, which increases that to 350 Newton meters, which gives you the same performance then as the GT line. You can buy a music streaming service. There's also additional parking modes that you can buy. And I think that's really interesting because it means that you can kind of increase the capabilities of your car. And unlike Tesla, in a Tesla you can do that, but when you sell the car, those things are taken off of the car and the new owner of that car has to then buy them again. With the Kia system, once you've put something on the car, that then is on the car, and if you were then to sell the car on to somebody else, it would have that feature. And I think that's really cool because it means you don't have to buy into everything, and I'm sure over time the amount of stuff that's on the Kia Connect store will increase, but I quite like that as an idea anyway. But talking about powertrain options, just what are the options in the car in terms of performance and powertrain? The entry point into the EV9 lineup, the Air, is priced from £64,995 on the road and is the version which offers the highest potential driving range. Its rear-wheel drive single-motor powertrain produces 201 bhp and 350 Newton meters of torque and is capable of up to 336 miles of range from a single charge. Moving from Air, the GT line has a dual-motor all-wheel drive powertrain as standard, producing 378 bhp and up to 700 Newton meters maximum torque,
and is capable of up to 308 miles on a single charge, with prices from £72,495. The range-topping GT Line S variant starts from £75,995 and offers the same dual-motor all-wheel drive powertrain and up to 308 miles of potential range. The GT Line S models are also exclusively available with a 6-seat interior layout, featuring second-row swivel seats. This model is available from £78,745 and replaces the 3-seat middle bench with 2 individual captain's chair seats with adjustable armrests.
So what are my final impressions of the Kia EV9? Well, honestly, I haven't done a review where there's so much to talk about on a car without actually taking it for a drive. This thing's full of so many innovative features, from the vehicle to load stuff. You'll be pleased to know that my e-bike is now fully charged. The infotainment system, I really like just little things. Being able to pair 2 devices to Bluetooth is such a small thing, but so useful. External styling, I like its chunky, rugged looks. I can imagine it's not going to be for everybody, but I love that Judge Dredd-esque, get out my way, menacing look. I think it looks fantastic. From a practicality point of view, if you've got a young family, I just can't imagine a better wagon than that. Whether it's 6-seat or 7-seat configuration, I haven't seen the 7-seat configuration, but I'd be very tempted to just go for the 6-seat. The fact that those 2 seats are separate on that middle row, the ability to swivel them inwards, but also you've got more foot room and leg room for the rear seat, 3rd row passengers. Boot space is immense. If you drop the seats, honestly, I haven't seen a bigger thing this side of a transit van. It's massive in there. I cannot wait to drive the car. It's the challenge with one of these studio shoots. It's so frustrating because there's so many things I want to try out, I want to give a go. I think the rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive option, that will be quite interesting. Rear-wheel drive gives you more range. The performance is less, but then for this type of vehicle, you know, it's still not going to be a slow coach car, and you get that extra range, that extra usability. But if you want to go quick, if you want to go toe-to-toe with performance SUVs out there, the GT Line spec with 0 to 60 in just over 5 seconds, come on, that's quick, isn't it? Anyway, if you enjoyed that, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome, and if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come, and I'll see you on the next video. But for now, I mean, I do have 7 bikes at home, but there is a golden rule, N+1, and while the guys from Kia aren't watching, I mean, they're not going to miss this, are they? So yeah, anyway, see you on the next film, guys. Take care, drive and ride safe.